Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to recreate this beautiful piece of artwork from Crate & Barrel that you can buy for $300 or DIY for less than $50. I actually made mine for far less than $50 and I'm going to show you how I did it. This project does take some time to put together. If you're looking for a project that you can just throw together in an hour, this is not the project for you. But the time spent on it is well worth it when you see the end result. I'll share some ideas and tips with you along the way so you can create your own string art masterpiece. So stay tuned and I'll show you how to get that high-end look for a lot less. Here's a look at some of the supplies that I used. You'll need a canvas any size of your choosing, some baker's twine, and believe me, you're going to need a lot of it, some duct tape, a staple gun, tape measure, hammer, and some scissors. The first step is cutting the string. So I went to Amazon and I found this listing for 12,000 feet of string. The price has gone up since I've made my purchase, but as of the release date of this video, $17.98 is the current price on this listing. I'm not associated with the seller in any way, it's just the best deal that I found on Amazon, and I'll leave a link to the Amazon listing in my description box below. 12,000 feet is a lot of string, but I had plenty left over for other projects and I did make multiple canvases. For the project I'll be showing you today, I used a 24 by 36 inch canvas. I purchased mine from Joann's when they had a Black Friday sale years ago, and I bought 2 frames for less than $5. So it's a good idea to keep an eye out for those sales. You will be cutting a lot of string and putting them together into bands. That is a very time-consuming and can be very tedious process. So you may want to do this while you're watching TV to ease the monotony of cutting so much string. Just start measuring out the string and cutting it and putting it into bundles. The fastest way to cut a bunch of string is to start with a piece of cardboard and wrap the string around it and cut it in small bundles. Now I used a 24 by 36 inch canvas, so I wanted string long enough to go in both directions, both vertically and horizontally, to have enough to not only cover the front of the canvas, but also to go around the side and wrap around the back so that I can staple it to the back. So the length that you want to cut your string depends on a couple of things, such as how thick your canvas is, how much room you have to work with to staple it in the back, and how tightly you weave the string. So it's better to have string longer than you need than shorter so that you can attach it to the frame without an issue. So you'll have bands that are going vertically and bands that are going horizontally. Since my canvas is 24 inches high, I cut those strings 28 inches. For the horizontal width of the canvas, which was 36 inches, I cut my string 40 inches long. So I cut a piece of cardboard 14 inches by 20 inches. So when you wrap the string around both sides of your cardboard, with my cardboard being 14 inches, that's going to be 28 inches long. Then when I wrap the string around the 20-inch length of cardboard, I'll have 40 inches of string. Make sure that you don't wrap the string tightly around the cardboard. Keep it a little loose because the string does stretch a bit, and this will keep the length of your cut string more consistent. Now I stacked up my string in larger bundles. I really don't recommend doing this because the string does get tangled very easily. This will just make separating the string a lot more difficult later on. I recommend using a wide tooth comb for this project. This really helps you get the tangles out of the string, keeping them nice and flat. We'll start putting our bands of string together. Because I put my string in larger bundles, I had to separate small sections out and get out as many tangles as I could. So before I start using the comb, it's best to use your finger and get out as many tangles as possible because you don't want the comb to split the string. So just take it nice and easy and go down the entire length of your string, separating those strands out so that they're nice and flat and untangled. See me go between 2 different projects that I have going on here. For the first project, you'll see that I have one layer of string all very flat. For the second project, I used a thicker bundle. To be honest, I like the thinner bundle best, but I did have to go over some of the areas with the second band just so that I didn't see any bare spots on the canvas. So I would recommend putting one bundle together and laying it on your canvas to see how it looks and experimenting with how thick you want your strings to be. For the first project, I kept my bundles wider and thinner, so I have just one layer of string, and I used the blunt edge of the comb to flatten the strings out. Starting with one end, line up the ends of your string as close as possible. This will help make sure that they are all secured by the tape. I used white duct tape to keep my bundles together. Of course, you can use any color that you want, but I thought this was a better look to blend in with the canvas. Press down on the tape firmly to make sure all of the string is secure. After securing one end of the string, comb through the string to make sure that it's nice and straight and flat, and then secure the opposite end. The second edge of string may not line up perfectly, but as long as you have all of the string secured by the tape, it should be fine. I laid all of the bands of string on top of the canvas to make sure that I had enough string to cover the entire surface of canvas. The crate and barrel example actually has space in between the bands of string, and I didn't like that look. I like the entire piece covered, and I think it looks so much better. When you're ready to start attaching the string, flip the canvas over to the back side. We're going to staple each band of string as close together as possible along one edge of the canvas, making sure that you start as close to the edge as possible so that there aren't any gaps. I use two staples to secure each band to the canvas. Make sure the duct tape is far enough away from the edge so that it can't be seen from the side. I tapped each of the staples using a hammer just to make sure that they were fully secure and would not move around. Attach the bands along two edges of the canvas, one short edge and one long edge. You'll attach the longer bands of string along a shorter edge of the canvas and the shorter bands of string along the longer edge of the canvas. After securing two edges of string to the canvas, flip the canvas over to the front side. We're going to start weaving our bands of string. The process is much easier to work with if you align two edges of your canvas with two edges of a large work surface such as a table or countertop so that the bands of string are hanging over the edges of the countertop or table. Since my canvas was pretty large and I don't have a tripod, it was much easier to use a smaller canvas with some scrap string that I had left over to demonstrate how to weave the string. For this demonstration, I did not attach the bands of string as close to the edges as possible, but your bands of string closest to the edges of the frame should be right up along the edge of the canvas. We'll start by placing the shorter bands of string onto the canvas. These are your vertical bands of string that go along the long edge of the canvas. We'll be placing bands of string in a random pattern over the top of the canvas. I like to alternate the bands onto the canvas, keeping the pattern very random. Use your creativity to alternate the bands of string, creating the patterns that you like. For this demonstration, I didn't attach bands along the entire edge of the canvas so that I could stay in frame. After placing all of the bands of string along the horizontal edge of the canvas, place the first longer band of string over the canvas. Now we'll change the pattern of the shorter bands of string to do our next layer. So alternate by pulling down some of the bands of string, keeping some of them over the canvas, and place some or all of the bands that you left hanging from the previous round over the canvas. Difficult to explain the technique, but if you watch what I'm doing, you'll totally get it. When you're ready, place the next longer band of string over the canvas. Repeat these steps until you've covered the entire canvas. After working the steps a few times, I do recommend just taking a little time before covering the entire canvas, making sure that your vertical and horizontal bands are straight. To change things up a bit and create some visual interest, I go through some of the bands of string just to create a different pattern. Once you have all of your bands placed, it's time to just make some adjustments, making sure that your bands are straight. As I said earlier, I don't want any of the canvas showing through, so I'm just making sure that my bands are nice and tight and close together. When you're happy with how it looks, it's time to flip the canvas over so that you can staple the bands to the back. Now this can be a little tricky because you have bands hanging off of two edges of the canvas. It's easier to flip over if you have two people, but what I did is used a second canvas, laid it over the top of this one, and then flipped it over, and that really helped keep my strings in place. If you don't have a second canvas, you can always just use a big piece of cardboard to keep the strings in place. You can see that I've added an additional piece of tape right next to the first one because my strings were longer than I needed. To clean it up a little bit, I cut any excess string and tape. Attach a picture hanger to the back of the canvas. You could also cover the back with some craft paper if you want. No one is ever going to see the back, but I thought it looked better by just placing some of the duct tape over the edges where I stapled the tape to the canvas. Here's a closer look at my finished project. I love the simplicity and neutrality of it, and in my opinion, it looks like a high-end piece of artwork and even better than Crate& Barrel's version. I hope you enjoyed this project and give it a try. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and please subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in my next video.